Most people imagine retirement as a clean financial break. Your day job ends, and so too does your debt. You close one door and neatly step into a brand new start. But the data tells a different story. Today, only about 23% of retirees enter retirement truly debt-free. That means retirees are still carrying debt into the years when their paycheck stops. And let me say this up front. It's not about shame. It's not about what's right or wrong. It's about understanding reality and planning for a retirement around that reality. Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. When your paycheck stops, every single expense you carry carries more weight, and debt, especially a mortgage, becomes more than just a bill, it becomes risk. Here's the truth. As interest rates rise, as property taxes rise, as healthcare costs rise, every single payment you carry into retirement amplifies the pressure. A mortgage isn't necessarily bad, and debt isn't bad, but it is the single biggest lever you take with you into retirement. The bigger your debt, the higher your fixed expenses, the less flexibility you have, and the more you may need to rely on your portfolio to bridge the gap between your income needs and your expenses. Let's look at the actual data we have, because this is where things get really eye-opening. How many retirees are truly debt-free? According to the EBRI, only 23% of retirees aged 65 to 74 enter retirement completely debt-free. Another study found the exact same thing. Only 23% of Americans retire debt-free, even though 53% expected they would. And it's worth pausing for a moment on that stat. More than half of all Americans expected to go into retirement completely debt-free. Yet what we see is that less than 1 in 4 actually do. And that's a huge gap. And that matters because if you carry debt with you into retirement, you just might find that retirement is more expensive than you thought it would be. And you need to plan for that reality, not the retirement you hoped for. And here's a big takeaway. Even the most generous reading of the data tells us the same thing. Most retirees carry debt into retirement. And the biggest piece of that puzzle, mortgages. For older homeowners age 65 and up who still have a mortgage, the median total monthly housing costs is about $1,950 a month. And that includes everything: principal, interest, property taxes, homeowners insurance, and HOA or condo fees. Now, it's important to understand something here. A lot of numbers we see about mortgages online, like the median payment being around $2,200 a month, are based on new purchase loans. Those numbers are generally for people buying homes today at higher prices and at higher interest rates. That doesn't depict the typical 70-year-old. Many retirees bought their homes decades ago when prices were lower. Their balances today are smaller. They may have refinanced when interest rates were lower. So their average or their median often tends to be much lower than what we see for the general working population. When you look at a younger borrower today taking on a mortgage, their housing expenses might easily exceed $3,000 once you factor in insurance and property taxes and any other fees. But here's the part many people don't realize. Roughly 1/3 of retirees between 65 and 74 still have a mortgage. And for that group, a very realistic typical number is somewhere around $1,800 to $2,000 a month for housing costs. And that matters because if you carry your mortgage into retirement, that's likely to be your largest fixed expense. So let's see how this plays out in the real world and how it would affect your planning. Let's build an example. The best way to understand this is to see how the math actually plays out. Imagine you're entering retirement with total housing costs of about $2,000 a month. That's everything together. Your mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, maybe an HOA fee. And let's assume roughly half of that, about $1,000 a month, is just the mortgage principal and interest. Here's the key point. Once you pay off your home, the taxes, insurance, maintenance, they don't go away. They keep showing up. But ditching that mortgage does get rid of a huge fixed cost, and that can give you a lot more breathing room within your retirement budget. So let's say you retire at 65 and you've still got 10 years left on this mortgage. That means the mortgage disappears at 75. The big question is, how much does your portfolio need to support that $1,000 a month payment for the next decade? Step 1, how much income do you need? It's $1,000 a month, 12 months, for 10 years. That's $120,000 in total payments. Step 2, how much do you need safely invested to generate that? If you're withdrawing for just 10 years, you don't need a 4% rule level of funding. A 4% rule method is designed to fund a 30-year retirement. It's not intended for short bridge periods. So if you're looking at paying something off or pulling the funds from your portfolio for, say, a 10-year period, you could safely withdraw a higher percentage, something in the ballpark of, say, 8% or 10%. In this example, just to be conservative, we're going to use 8%. Step 3, to withdraw $12,000 a year at an 8% withdrawal rate, you'd need around $150,000 invested. That's the rough ballpark of what you'd comfortably need set aside to be able to cover your mortgage for the next 10 years from your portfolio. Now let's layer in the nuance. What if you did insist on using the 4% rule? Some people prefer to evaluate everything through the 4% withdrawal lens, so let's run the math. At a 4% safe withdrawal rate, you'd need $300,000, meaning if you use the traditional 4% framework, that exact same $1,000 a month mortgage suddenly becomes a $300,000 portfolio liability. I'm not saying that's the right way to model a 10-year payment. It isn't, but it does highlight something incredibly important. Carrying a mortgage into retirement dramatically increases the burden your portfolio has to absorb. Even one lingering payment can translate into hundreds of thousands of dollars that your portfolio has to support. Here's the story this example tells. If you enter retirement with a $1,000 a month mortgage, you're effectively entering retirement with a $150,000 to $300,000 portfolio obligation, depending on how you evaluate risk. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you have to have a plan. If your mortgage is going to drop off in 10 years, this becomes part of your bridge strategy. It gets built into your early retirement spending and how you fund that from 65 to 75. But it's also the perfect example of why eliminating even one major payment can dramatically reduce the pressure on your retirement plan and give you far more flexibility in those early critical years. And of course, there's nuance. There are absolutely retirees who have zero incentive to pay off their mortgage early. Perhaps their mortgage is sitting at a rate of 2%, and they think, why would I pull money out of investments that are making 8, 9, or 10% a year to pay off a low-cost debt? And for many retirees, they're already in the final years of their mortgage. The early years are where you pay the vast majority of the interest. So they might be at the point where their payments are, the vast majority of them, going towards principal. So paying it off early doesn't really change the math that much. There are plenty of valid reasons someone might choose to carry a mortgage into retirement. There's no one right way to do this. And the opposite is true as well. There are plenty of valid reasons that someone might choose to pay off their mortgage before going into retirement. Some of these reasons are financial, some of these reasons are psychological. The principle I want to emphasize is if it's an expense you are going to carry with you, it's an expense you need to plan for. And the length of time you're going to carry this mortgage matters enormously. It's a very different situation to say, I'm going to carry a mortgage for the first 2 years of my retirement compared to saying, I'm going to carry a mortgage for the first 12 years of my retirement. It's not about judgment. There's no right or wrong. You just want to get clear on what your situation is so you can accurately plan for your reality. To really understand what's happening with debt in retirement, we have to zoom out because the trend over time tells a much bigger story than any one statistic. Back in 1989, only 37.8% of households aged 65 and older carried any debt, meaning about 62% of retirees were completely debt-free. Fast forward to 2001, and that number had already slipped. 43.2% carried debt, leaving only about 57% debt-free. And today, only 23% of retirees enter retirement without debt. So if you lay it out on a simple timeline, it looks like this. It's a steady downward slope, and the story it tells is very clear. Every decade, fewer retirees are going into retirement debt-free. This isn't an individual issue. It's a generational shift on how Americans live, borrow, and truly structure their financial lives. And consider that according to the National Association of Realtors, the median age of a first-time homebuyer is now 40 years old, the highest on record. If someone buys their first home at 40 and takes on the traditional 30-year mortgage, they won't have that paid off until they're 70. The idea of entering into retirement with a mortgage isn't just common, it's becoming the default pattern for many Americans going forward, and this has big implications for retirement planning. So why are fewer and fewer people entering retirement debt-free? A lot of it comes down to how the financial landscape has changed in the recent past. Home prices have elevated, so people are taking out larger loans and paying on them for longer. Many people choose to refinance to a new 30-year loan in their 40s or their 50s, which pushes those payments right into their retirement years. Debt itself is being normalized. Car loans now easily stretch 7 to 10 years. College costs have exploded, and many parents are helping to foot this bill while also saving for their retirement. The maintenance of modern life, everything from insurance to childcare to healthcare, has simply become more expensive. It's a structural shift on how many are financing their lives, how long they're willing to carry debt, and how they're using debt to sort of bridge the gaps in many areas. The entire rhythm of American finances has changed, and retirement is where all of those decisions finally show up. This is where I land on my personal philosophy of risk in retirement. A mortgage isn't inherently good or bad, it's simply a fixed cost. And the more fixed costs you carry with you into retirement, the more pressure you put on your Social Security check, your portfolio withdrawals, your monthly cash flow, and your long-term sustainability. A mortgage at 70 isn't the end of the world, but it does require a plan. The bigger the expense you carry with you, the more risk you absorb the day your paycheck stops. Here's how I like to describe the aspirational version of retirement. I love the idea of entering into retirement with your home fully paid off, your car fully paid off, no outstanding debt. It's not that debt is good or bad, it's just that it gives you freedom. A fully paid off home lowers your monthly burden. It allows your income, whether that's from Social Security or your portfolio, to stretch further. It truly gives you more breathing room. That's the vision. A lower cost structure means less stress, it means more options, it means more resilience. It's not about perfection, it's about creating a retirement where your money works for you, not the other way around. If you are heading into retirement with debt, especially a mortgage, you're not alone. So many people are right there with you. It's not necessarily a problem, but it is something you need to plan for. Your retirement is most vulnerable in the years where your income becomes fixed and your expenses stay high. If you can find a way to lower these expenses, you give yourself more freedom and more breathing room. Even one debt paid off, even one less monthly payment can make your retirement plan much stronger and more resilient. So what are your thoughts on going into retirement with debt or with a mortgage? Leave them in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. And that matters because if you carry debt with you into retirement, you find, oh my goodness. I don't know if the bark was in there. Step 3, to withdraw TEL. Oh my goodness, I'm dying over here. Step 3, to withdraw TEL. How they finance things, and